at the heart of everything, what I really believe is that when we lead from identity, not insecurity, we don't just change rooms, we really do change lives.
In this episode of Conversations Beyond the Brand, Dr. Tashana Thompson sits down with Courtney Robinson, founder of the Bold Faith Leadership Lab, leadership branding strategist, and image expert. She has empowered countless high-achieving women to align their faith-driven purpose with a bold presence.
I know that you've transitioned a bit in your brand. Talk to me about what that transition has been like.
Me wanting to support women in their image, in elevating their image and making sure that their image was the truest representation of who they are in that season. And the pivot came when I experienced medical issue. And after having gone through that, it totally changed my perspective. And that now it's more about identity in Christ. My faith is now the strategy. We are meant to grow. We are meant to develop. We are not, us 40-year-old women are not the same women we were in our early 20s. And if you're trying to hold on to that, you're missing something, because there's so much development and growth and beauty and joy in aging.
There's often this fear of coming out as a Christian, because there's also this negative connotation.
Absolutely. And understandably so, because there are a lot of counterfeits out there.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Conversations Beyond the Brand. I am your host, Dr. Tashana Thompson. And this season 2, is all about wearing your values. And I could not think of a better person to have a conversation with around this topic than my friend, my stylist, my go-to image expert, Courtney Robinson. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
So, Courtney, I could say a million things about you in terms of just the style and grace that just you exude. But I want you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure, absolutely. So I am Courtney Robinson, and I am a leadership branding strategist, image expert, and founder of the Bold Faith Leadership Lab for Christian women. And so what I do is help high-achieving women of faith align their purpose with their presence so that they can lead with clarity, with confidence, and with conviction. And so my work really bridges identity and image, as well as style and strategy. And it's really so women can stop shrinking in spaces that we're really called to lead and start showing up fully aligned with who God created us to be, right? So at the heart of everything, what I really believe is that when we lead from identity, not insecurity, we don't just change rooms, we really do change lives and legacies. So that's a bit about me.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm so excited about this conversation because we got to get to catch up a bit because, it's been a little while since we've caught up. But for years, you have been someone that I've gone to for personal styling. I've sent my clients to you for personal styling. And I know that you've transitioned a bit in your brand from that. So talk to me about what that transition has been like and, kind of where you started and where you are today.
Sure. So I love that question because, the totality of who we are really is the growth, right?
Absolutely.
And those stage gates that we go through. So I still work in corporate. I still have a corporate role where I lead and oversee both people and projects. But when I started my business, it was really because I've always had this penchant in this ministry for women, and I was wanting to find a way to really, serve in that purpose outside of my corporate role. And so when I got married and moved here to Georgia in 2015, starting a new endeavor was like the perfect way to meet new women and to kind of figure out, what I could do entrepreneurially. So like everybody else, I went for a brand photo shoot so I could get some things for visibility out there. And that's when it really got confirmed for me. Someone planted the seed a few years before that, but then it kind of came into fruition once I had that brand photo shoot and connected with that photographer, Kim from Amazing Photos. And we had such a connection that led to a collaboration, and so that in and of itself really sparked me wanting to support women in their image and elevating their image and making sure that their image was the truest representation of who they are in that season. And so I did that for several years. And the pivot came when I experienced, a personal medical, issue. And after having gone through that, it totally changed my perspective on what I'm here to do. And so there's still that piece of helping women with their image, but it's deepened in that now it's more about identity in Christ. And so while I've always been a Jesus girl and love the Lord, I wasn't leading with that in my business. And that was the pivot that has changed everything in terms of how I show up and how I'm supporting, is that my faith is now the strategy, right? In terms of helping people lean into and understand their own identity and how they're showing up and standing boldly in that. So now there's this fusion again between style and strategy and identity and image and how we show up, how we lead, because I believe regardless of what your title is, we're all a leader in some aspect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. You know, can you take us back to the earliest years when you first were like getting into image? You told me a wonderful story years ago, and I hope that you tell the same one today. Yes.
Getting into it.
Getting excited about it.
Oh, getting excited about it. Let me see. You might have to jog my memory because I got a lot of stories.
So you told me a story about being in the workplace and really wanting to elevate your image. And
Yeah.
well, that one.
So, well, so working in corporate, it was all about, you know, a lot of it is how you show up. We cannot get away from that. We can't get away from the fact that, first of all, people are visual.
Absolutely.
And they see you before you even have an opportunity to open your mouth. And so you have a real advantage when you show up in a way that magnetizes other people. And so at that point, I was feeling really down about myself and my looks. And I thought, but I have control over this. I can control the way I show up, how I look, how other people perceive me, but most importantly, how I feel about myself. Right.
Absolutely.
So I went and changed, I went shopping. I think I started using the mail order style Stitch Fix. And then I was using Stitch Fix for a while before I really started digging in and getting excited about doing it for myself. Um, Completely changed my hair, got a different hairstyle, and hired a personal trainer, like all the things, like to make me feel good about who I was and how I was showing up. But everybody started to take notice, right? Like everybody around me, like, the men and the women. And it started to impact even how other people showed up, which is what I love about this, is that by encouraging ourselves, we can uplift and empower other people to also want to show up strong. I mean, women in my workplace started getting their nails done. They started doing their hair. They just started showing up differently by looking at me, right? And I thought, that's the kind of influence that we can have with clothing, right? Like
Absolutely.
that's powerful. That's impact. And so, yeah, that really helped me grow. It gave me more confidence. It made me more bold, how I showed up. and how I represented myself and my personal brand, right? So yeah, I don't know if that's the exact same story I told, but I do remember that early on, that is exactly how I became more visible, how I started to grow, see myself more as a leader,
Right.
then also advocate and compete for more for promotions and things like that.
Right. Wow. Courtney, you know that I think the world of you, and I have often been guilty of saying to Kim Photography. That's how we know each other. Kim is one of my brand partners. I've often said Courtney is too classy for her own good. She does lovingly with all the love. Like she is the good of class and grace, I think of you.
Oh, I love that.
With all love and sincerity. And I think that, I've always known that you are a Jesus girl, and we kind of shared that. And um, I've been able to work with you. You've supported me, I've supported you. And one of the things that I think has really, you've already spoken to your medical history and having some health challenges really led you to deepen your walk in terms of sharing it, like not that you weren't already doing it.
Mhm.
If you will, just share a little bit with our audience about the testimony. To me, it's like giving God all the glory for and I could get weepy.
I know. But
for the for what he's done, like and what you were going through and facing just a couple of years ago.
he's so good. He's so good. If you look at me, you would never be able to tell that I've been through what I've been through, right? Certainly don't look at, and it's only by the grace of God. And the emotion that you feel, trust me, I experience that all the time. I actually have an MRI coming up on the 1st, August 1st, and that'll be my yearly checkup. But what happened for me was probably in late 2020, my husband actually asked me, like, did you bump your eye or something, happened to your eye? I think I had just had like a brand photo shoot, another update or something like that. And so I just attributed it to being behind the computer a lot because, I have a work from home job. And so I'm pretty stationary and that type of thing. But I went to go get it checked out just to be on the safe side. And I don't do regular eye appointments because up until that point, I had 20/20 vision and never had issues with my eyes. But the ophthalmologist, I went to see the ophthalmologist that my husband sees because he wears contacts and glasses. And because he knew him, I felt safe going to this gentleman and went for a routine eye appointment just to get a checkup on my eyes. And the ophthalmologist really was taken aback. And when he was like, you're blind in your right eye. And I'm looking at him like, dude, come on now. Now, mind you, now this was right around COVID, right? And so I wasn't doing a whole lot of makeup because, again, I work from home. We weren't going anywhere. And I just never noticed that whatever was happening in my right eye, my left eye was making up for it. So I just had no idea that there was something going on. But when we were doing those eye tests, he was right. I could not see out of this right eye. He referred me for a CT scan, which revealed that I had 3 meningiomas or brain tumors that are benign. That's what a meningioma is. And then a subsequent MRI revealed that there weren't 3, but there were 4. And they were all in different parts of my head. But the one that was causing the issue, that was the one that was sitting on my eye. It's actually sitting on my optic nerve. And so, I mean, it really happened. Went to the appointment in January, had the MRI in February, and in March, 10 days before my 44th birthday, I was in brain surgery, having this tumor removed from my eye. And when they got in there, they couldn't get all of it, but they got most of it. And I had a very vibrant recovery. I had the best nurses. you could think of at Emory. And I was supposed to be there for 5 days, but I was out in 3 because I'm that type of person. Like, I didn't want to be laid up in anybody's bed. I was anxious to get home and resume life and all that kind of stuff. But I did have to take it easy because brain surgery is no walk in the park. And so, but I did well. I did well overall. And like I said, didn't lose any of my, energy, any of my spark. I just simply had to heal. And, the interesting thing is that I do not have full vision in my right eye anymore. I don't have peripheral vision. I have core vision. And the blessing in that is that if it were reversed, I would be considered legally blind and I wouldn't be able to drive.
Wow.
And so there's that piece to it, coupled with the fact that after brain surgery, a year later, I experienced some strokes in my sleep around my husband's birthday, around Christmas. We were out of town visiting his family. And I woke up one morning feeling like a truck had just hit me and didn't quite know what was going on. My blood sugar was high. My blood pressure was high. All these different things were going on. And I just didn't really have a frame of reference. I never knew anyone who had suffered a stroke and certainly didn't know what it, would feel like. But the interesting part is that, again, I was talking and functioning like I normally would. I just didn't feel myself. And so when we finally got to, I didn't go to the emergency room because I was presenting, I was doing all the things, and I'm a little stubborn too. I I didn't want to go to the ER, but we did go to the urgent care when we got back to Atlanta. And yeah, they were like, yeah, everything's okay. My blood pressure, is still kind of high, but it normalized, gotten a little bit closer to normal. Um, it, it was just really interesting. Nobody called it a stroke. It wasn't until I went for a routine MRI that next couple of weeks. So it's like actually 3 weeks since when I suffered the strokes to when it was actually identified, right? I had the MRI. My husband went with me that day to the appointment because he was off, and we get into the doctors. They read the MRIs that day. They always, pull me in and we have a conversation about where we are. And the doctor was really white-faced, literally. He was like, "We can't send you home." And I'm like, "What do you mean? I've been home for like 3 weeks, doing the things I normally do." And he's like, "You suffered a stroke. And yeah, we got to send you to the emergency room, and you got to have a full workup, and we got to figure out, where this stemmed from." And so basically what had happened is that this residual tumor that was left on my right eye was pressing against my carotid artery. And that was causing what they call watershed strokes. And so then we go back into this tirade of doctor's appointments, them trying to figure out what to do, how to do it. I had second opinions. And when it was all said and done, it was way too risky for them to go in again, right? And try to fix this. Like, they were going to try to harvest arteries in different places of my skull to make it better. But the consensus was, after having surgery, which they cut from here all the way over here to my ear, that there was probably a lot of scar tissue and things that had grown back, right? Because it had been quite some time since I'd had brain surgery. And going in there were 2 very, very well-skilled, neurosurgeons who said they probably would not attempt that, right? That it's, well, if we leave well enough alone. So the burden has really been on me to stay healthy, to eat well, to exercise, to keep my stress at bay, to do all the things to lead, the healthiest life that I can. And I had to learn to embrace that. I figured if I'm here, if I got through brain surgery and survived not one stroke, but several strokes in my sleep, that I am here for a reason, right? And so I do my very best to show up very cheerfully and, thankful for where God has brought me from. It's very interesting because every single time I go for an appointment, they always ask me, "Are you depressed? Are you feeling down?" All these kind of things. And they think I'm in denial. So then they'll ask my husband if he happens to be there, "Have you noticed any changes in her behavior?" And he's always like, "She's the same old Courtney," type thing, because it's like when you have that joy in the Lord, when you know that the only reason you're here is because God has sustained you and sustained your health, how can you not show up in a way and choose to live out the life that he's put you here to lead? And so I had to get over myself, right? And I had to understand that the love that God has for me and the way that he has protected me and provided for me and gotten me through, what really could have been some really tragic things that could have changed my whole, the whole trajectory of my life, in which it still has, but in a very positive way, right? Most people don't know. I don't wear it on my sleeve and I don't lead with it.
Yeah.
But I do welcome the opportunity to share that because there is so much joy and peace on the other side of, getting over something, right? Um, and I don't want to be that strong person.
Right.
However, I am very thankful that God brought me through. So that's my testimony. And I'm here and I'm still kicking. And there have been, I do believe that there have been some, like the enemy is, because I used to say, "Oh, I'm so healthy. I used to say that all the time." And we're supposed to profess those things. But I believe the enemy of our soul, sometimes really wants to challenge us and say, "Okay, you're healthy. Let's put you through some things and see if you can still proclaim and you really want to tout that." And so here I am. And as of late, I've had some things come up that I've had to navigate. And, I just keep thinking, if you did it for me then, you'll do it again. And so that's where I am. But God is so faithful. He is so
Faithful. So faithful. Um,
It's a lot. It's a lot.
and I'm trying to formulate the words without boohoo crying because the thing about me, and I believe is, I'll call it my blessing only and not my curse. My blessing is that if I love you, I love you.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And I love you.
Oh.
And, when you care about people, and I was just having a conversation with Graham on the podcast, and he used some choice words that Jesus girls won't use here. But when you care about people, your clients, your colleagues, your partners, your family, your friends, it knowing the testimony and knowing what God brought them through will make you weep.
Mm-hmm.
And you are just such a shining example. And I just thank God for your life. I thank God for your ministry and the call on you. And the testimony. If you do not believe in the goodness of God,
Yeah.
here she is, proclaiming his goodness and his mercy and his grace.
Absolutely.
And I love that he doesn't leave us like he found us. Like,
At least
we love him, right? We think we love him and it's good enough, right? And we're rocking in his will. But when you have, now that you've made this shift to, he transformed your identity.
Uh-huh.
And now you've taken that work and you're bringing it to other women. It's just so powerful. You're really using, turning your pain into purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So along those lines, how do you know when a woman, when she comes to you and she's really needing some help in the space of not just personal brand, not just image, but an identity shift? Because it really is like, laying hold of who God says you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how do I support a woman in that way?
Support, and how do you, yeah, yeah, how do you support?
Well, a lot of it is activating what's already inside of her, right? And I think that is the part um, I use. Have used and still use the word transformation, but I really do think it's more activation.
Mm-hmm.
God has given us all a purpose, and there's a call on our lives. Some of us know it and we're walking in it, and some of us are running from it, right? So I think it's really about being clear about your identity, having clarity and alignment with that, and then not being afraid to let go of the things that don't support who you are in this season. Sometimes we just really want to hold on to those things that God never meant for us to have, or only meant for us to have for a season, right? And then to give up and move on to the next. And I've been guilty of that, right? And so knowing that, I think it's easy for me on the outside to then help women reflect and say, but is this who you really are in this season?
Mm,
How do we get closer to what God is calling you to be, who He's calling you to be, more of your image in Him? Because I truly believe that if we really see ourselves the way God sees us, how can we not show up bold,
and
you
excellent.
know, and walk in it? How can we not? If we really truly believed that. So it's really about taking back people back to their beliefs, their core values. If you say you love God, you love Jesus, then let's show it. Let's walk like it, right?
Right.
And that's not a one and done thing. That's a daily thing, right? It's a daily thing.
We're daily picking up our cross, right?
Absolutely.
Before we jump back in, have you ever felt like running your business means wearing so many hats? Like you're juggling everything at once? That's why we're proud to have Beyond Business Solutions as the sponsor of this episode. They help entrepreneurs like you stay organized, save time, and focus on what really matters, growing your business. If you're looking for your very own branding and marketing team that truly cares about helping you succeed, visit beyondsolutions.biz. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
How does a woman know that she's ready to come to you and work with you?
That's really good. So I think it is someone who understands that she is meant for more, whatever that more is, but she's not quite sure how to get there, right? And I believe for those of us who are high achieving, very bright, brilliant, accomplished women, we know all the, you know, or it's perceived that we know all the things or how to do all the things, but the very thing that we probably need the most is someone to hold space for us,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And to see us for who we really are, and to understand that even though we can very well look put together, we may not always feel put together on the inside. And so I want to provide a space for that woman to come in and say, I see you, sis. I hear you. And so here is not the place where you need to encourage. It's the place where you can be encouraged, where you can be empowered, where you can be inspired, right?
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, that's what it is. And there are not a whole lot of spaces like that. It's not church and it's not counseling. It's just the place where you can really be seen for who you are, all the different facets of who you are, right? Because we're so multifaceted as women. we wear all the hats.
It's so
All
true.
the
And typically we don't have the support that we need that leans itself to not paying attention to our own health,
hats.
whether it be physical or mental, our own needs, voicing those needs. So I want to talk about the Bold Faith Leadership Club.
Yes.
Tell us exactly what it is, what people can expect to experience, all the goodness.
Absolutely. So this leadership lab was really born out of this tension that I see in these high achieving women, these brilliant women like us, right? Who are faithful women. And again, we're brilliant. I keep using that word because it's what comes to mind. Yes, brilliant. But we're also burdened, right? We're also burdened.
Say that.
And we're gifted, right? But then we're stuck, right? Between like being called to lead, but then fear of being maybe too much or not enough. And, there's all this stuff that we carry. And so the lab is like a transformational, activational place where Christian women can really align who they really are, their purpose, with their presence, and start leading from that identity. Right? So moms are leaders. You're a leader in your home,
Absolutely.
And a lot of moms don't feel that way, right? There's this insecurity instead of, leading from that identity. So it's really not about image, for image's sake. It's really about alignment again. And so the leadership lab is really to guide women through what I call my bold identity method. And it's just a framework of 4 things. It's your purpose, your your purpose, your poise, your passion, and your presence.
I love it.
Right. So those things I think are like the core things that we kind of have to align ourselves with in order to show up as, the best version of who God created us to be.
I love that. Why was now the right time to launch the lab?
Because I was playing around. I've been playing around, and God showed me that if you don't do it now, have you ever, kind of waylaid on something too long and somebody else showed up? You're like, hey, that was my idea. And it is that type of thing. Like God was like, okay, Courtney, well, I've given you the vision, but trust me, you're not the only one who wants to have an impact and support women. So get moving. And not only that, we're not at we're not overwhelmed with resources and spaces where women can get this type of support.
It's true. It's very true.
He also showed me that my 21 plus years of global leadership has more than well equipped me to lead in this. See, a lot of this, when we talk about insecurity, I was insecure in that way, right? And it's like, who am I to show up? Who am I to encourage women in their faith? Who am I to tell women that they should lead more boldly? Well,
who are you not to?
Exactly. God is like, so what have I been grooming you for? What have I gifted you to do for all these years? And it's not to keep it to yourself.
Right.
It's to serve other people. So yeah, serving the kingdom. And what better way to do it than for kingdom women, right?
I love it. I love it. One of my other guests and a close friend, Cash Thompson, said, the seed or the fruit isn't for just us. It is for the ecosystem. It is for the community. It is for the tribe, right? It is for these women. And that is exactly, what you have brought to this space. All this experience, all this passion and pain and um, faith, incredible faith you're able to share now. So tell me exactly, and tell the audience more importantly, exactly who the lab is for and what kind of transformation they can expect.
Right. So the lab is for women who are growing in their leadership. And again, it does not mean you have to have a leadership title. You can just want personal and professional development, right? So you could be an individual contributor who's looking to move into a leadership role. You could be a leader who's looking to ascend into the C-suite. I'm really not it's just anybody who wants to grow in how they lead and who wants to lead from a lens of faith, right? Who really doesn't want to forsake their core values and their inner values, but who really want to show up as the woman that God created her to be, right? And to show up faithfully in that way. I really believe that there's this call for Christians to really live out their faith in every environment that they're in, right? And some of us need a little help with that. You don't have to go waving a Bible, but there's a way that you can show up so aligned with the word, that it's undeniable.
Absolutely. I think that, many of us are taught to be closet Christians, if you
Mhm.
will,
Yes.
and in certain spaces. And I can remember my great grandmother, rest her soul, teaching us that, there are certain things you don't talk about in the workplace. You don't talk about race, you don't talk about religion,
Mhm.
and you don't tell nobody how much you make, right? Like these are lessons that were ingrained.
Absolutely.
So I think that, those are things that I've even shrank from um in large spaces. Like if you know me, then you know, right? But I think just the last couple of years, I will reference my prayer life for God or those types of things because we're often taught to have this kind of separation of
Right.
how we show up. And you, my dear, I give women permission to shine, brilliant women permission to shine.
Mhm.
You are giving them permission to show up fully in their faith.
Absolutely. Because faith and business, they're not separate lanes. Really, faith is, again, it's the lens through which you see and decide and lead, right? It should be a part of every decision, a part of every conversation, right? Um, and anchored, it should be our anchor, right? When we're anchored in the truth of God about who He says I am, who He says we are, then we can show up unapologetically, right?
Right. Right. And I think that there's so many, I think that there's often this fear of coming out as a
Mhm.
Christian because there's also this negative connotation that, oh, you're a Christian, you're judging me, or um, whatever the case may be. And I often tell people, listen, I'm called to love. I
Mhm.
serve that God, the one that in the Bible that was washing feet. Like because people act like
Exactly.
that. We hear a lot about the people who are not showing up
Right.
as Jesus would get on.
Absolutely. You're
And
right.
that has given, made many fearful of sharing their faith.
Absolutely. And understandably so, because there are a lot of counterfeits out there, right?
Well,
But compartmentalizing our faith will never give us the clarity and the conviction, to lead in a way that gives us the authority and the impact that we're seeking ultimately. And so that's the kind of integration and activation that happens in the leadership lab, right? Is that you're given the space, the grace, and you're taught, right? So it's not just my experience, it's the collective experience of the other women in the lab who can say, I've been there, done that. This is how I handled that, right? Because that's how
absolutely.
learn from other people and their experiences, and it gives you a different perspective on how to handle, how to walk out some things more faithfully and with grace, because we are not at a loss of issues and tension and ways to better communicate and be more effective in how we relate to other people.
For sure, for sure. I know you work with a lot of high achieving women, and for many of us, the acrobatics
Mm,
of code switching
mm.
and shrinking in corporate cases and even in entrepreneurial ones
Mm.
um, is exhausting.
It is.
It's taxing on our mental and physical health.
Mhm.
How does the lab help women show up fully?
Really, you have a space to be yourself, but also you learn how to, what's the word I want to say? I think you have to choose your words carefully, because I never want anybody to feel like they have to, like you say, code switching is the very thing. But
The real thing.
yeah, it's more about your presence, right? And that's why we dig into that piece, because when you're really rooted and aligned in that deepness, then you don't have to really switch. You just, it flows
The
naturally.
fullness, the
Yeah,
fullness of yourself, right?
exactly. The fullness of who you are, just it comes through. People see it for who it is. You don't have to mix words. You don't have to, all those things. You just show up and your presence almost speaks for itself. But that's the God in you. Only God can do that, right? So a
Absolutely.
lot of it is, again, encouraging women to press into their faith. All right. I did a study, The Awe of God by John Bevere was one book I read last year that had the biggest impact on me in terms of helping me understand that I cannot love God and not fear him.
Mm.
And I cannot fear man and fear God.
Woo! Say it again.
I can't love him and not fear him, because God is to be feared, right? But I cannot fear God and fear man.
And I think when people hear fear,
Right.
they go to like, I'm fearful of snakes,
All the way to the left. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And when I think about the fear associated with my reverence for God,
Mhm, mhm.
it's fear as reverence,
Right.
not fear as, oh, the snake gonna get me, gonna bite, it's gonna, like I'm gonna die. So I think that that's the difference in the distinction that you just made. We can't do both.
You
Choose
cannot.
to say, who are we going to serve?
That's right.
And, I think when you make these bold, God led decisions in your business, like
Mhm,
you made this bold decision to put your faith forward. I made a very bold decision to work with women primarily. Um,
mhm.
I only market to women. Those
Same.
are bold decisions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We just cut out so much of the marketplace, right?
Absolutely.
Um, but they're decisions you can make with ease
Mhm.
and joy when
Absolutely.
you know that you're doing what you were called to do.
Absolutely.
You know that you've heard the voice of God and
Right.
making a decision.
Right.
And you didn't make it just because Courtney thought it was cute today.
Exactly. I made it because that was the discernment that I had, and that was what God called me to do. It's interesting that you say that, because I had a workshop. I did a master class last night, and I always forget the title of it. I've got to learn how to shorten these titles. Hold on, let me tell you what it was. But I'm sharing this because somebody reposted and shared it to their network, but they challenged me in a way, and that because I was using Proverbs 31, right? Like a blueprint for leadership.
Right.
And they were like, well, I'd never heard that before because Proverbs 31 was written from, a mother to her son and that type of thing. But again, that's like when God has called you to give an insight in the Bible in a different way. I didn't take anything out of context.
Mm-mm.
I just used the word to demonstrate how a Proverbs 31 woman is a leader
Absolutely.
and how all of those qualities, right, that we think are ideal are actually leadership qualities.
Absolutely.
And how that encourages us to show up in a way that gives us better impact to lead, because we can all agree that she was,
Everywhere.
right.
She was a multifaceted woman showing up as the fullness
That's right.
of herself.
So, it's just one of those things. Like, I see God in everything. I really do. I have to learn. I don't want to be spooky deep, but I see God in everything, every single thing. And that's where I feel like that's where we get that conviction is what will get us, where we need to be. And, yeah, that's it, where we need to be.
I love that. And I love that you said, and I often say that I see God in everything. Because if you're looking for the devil in everything, you will find him. But if you're looking for God in everything, you will find him.
Absolutely.
Everybody and everything is not the devil. I'm looking for God. I'm looking.
That's right. Where is
I need a flashlight in the daylight. I'm
Come
looking.
on in, Lord. Come on in. Right. I invite him into every space. Absolutely.
As you seek him, you will find him.
That's right.
Okay. So I can't talk to you all day long. We got this. So can you we're going to move on from the lab, but I want you to just give me a peek into one of the core lessons or one of the spiritual principles that anchors the experience in the lab.
So purpose, and that's what I focused on the whole month of June, was helping people understand, develop, and find their purpose, and be in alignment with that. Because a lot of us say we know our purpose, but the fruit doesn't show that we're, walking in or supporting our purpose. And so some women just don't understand the arcs around that, right? So we talked about, we talk about some leadership frameworks, but mostly just about getting quiet and reflective, right? And listening. The lab is less about a whole bunch of information, because I believe like a lot of us already know. We're just not doing it. Right? So you can have all the information, but if you're not putting it to use, then what good is it?
None.
So I think the lab is an opportunity for you to do that, right? Because you're not expected to show up and perform.
You know what? I think that is so important that you said that, because so many of us are on a stage of our own making. And, I think we've taken the term fake it until you make it entirely too far.
All the way. That's right.
All the way to and the masks that we wear that become so plastered to our faces that you can't even make a distinction between what's real and what's fake.
Yeah.
And giving people permission, women especially, permission to come into a space, a sacred space, that they're not expected to perform.
Right.
Because you're performing everywhere.
That's right. It's not performance, it's not perfectionism, it's really leading from the inside out, and more than anything to be poured into, right?
I love it. I love it. Speaking of being poured into, I am poured into weekly by the weekly devotional that you share, Poise and Promises, that blesses me and so many other women. Talk to me about what inspired you to start that.
Well, so right before I actually, was it right before I suffered my strokes is when I wanted to start Poise and Promises. And so the devotional was kind of delayed and it took me a while to get back on my feet, but it always stuck with me. And I just had to, make it happen. And so it started more as, um, again, integrating that faith and style and fashion, faith and style, and that type of thing, and how women were showing up. And it has since grown or developed into the same how you show up in the image, but again, focusing more on your identity and leadership. So it's actually now Poise and Promises, called to lead, right? And I'm just digging into leadership truths from a biblical perspective every week, and then, encouraging you and giving you a little bit of scripture and just some things to noodle on. And so really I was inspired out of, I wanted something like, I love devotional. I love books, but I really love devotionals. And so I wanted something that I could put out into the world that was a reflection of my voice, but also just the things that, God shows me or puts on my heart for women leaders. Um, so when I stopped writing for a period of time because, as with anything, sometimes you get a little overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
And, the production of it all, yeah. I mean, because it's not just, like you can sit down and write it in like 5 minutes, it takes some time and thought
And
and,
prayer.
yeah, and prayer. Like you really want it to be something that people like you say, "Oh, I love getting that." And I do. When I stopped, I got so many emails where is it? What's going on? And I'm like, I'm gonna get back to it. I'm gonna get back to it. And so when I did, I was like, okay, let's do this again. But I needed that fresh kind of refreshing myself in order to move it to a different place. So,
Absolutely. And sometimes you have to take a break and pause, right? Like,
mhm,
and you often find the presence of God in the pause
absolutely.
and in that rest. So, how do you help women? Because I think that a lot of us, and you spoke to this a bit earlier, have something that we're a bit insecure about. You know,
Mhm.
how do you help women to shift from hiding to showing up with this holy confidence?
A lot of it is going back to the same thing, like really understanding who you are, right? And then embracing who you are right now in this season. We are meant to grow. We are meant to develop. We are not, us 40-year-old women are not the same women we were in our early 20s, right? And if you're trying to hold on to that, you're missing something because there's so much development and growth and beauty and joy in aging, right?
Yeah.
And becoming better and becoming more and growing deeper, in the things of God and who He's called you to be. So that's where the focus becomes. It's not on where I'm insecure, where I'm deficient, what I don't have. Let's talk about all the things you do have and all the things that are in your hand and how we use that. And so it's like every time I'm encouraging another woman in that way, it's building me up, right? It's reinforcing and confirming what God has placed in me. Like I was so excited after last night's masterclass. I was like, woo, I ran upstairs and told my husband, I was like, honey, he's like, what? And I'm like, just giving him the download. And I'm like, I didn't go to bed till midnight because I was that amped up about, having that connection with other women and them like getting it and them saying, yes, I need it. Like, we're so busy and there's so many things competing for our attention that we don't even want to take time for ourselves. Right?
And we will drop dead if we do not take care of ourselves.
Right.
I have literally watched it happen, and not even just drop dead physically, spiritually, spiritual death. I cannot tell you the women in the last couple of years that I've seen either pass away or have life-altering illnesses because everybody else was more important.
Right.
Everything else was more important.
Absolutely.
And you said a couple of things that I saw a through line I had to jot down. And I know we have to wrap up. I keep saying that. But letting go of the things that have passed away and embracing the now. And I can remember years ago, Courtney came to my house and she helped me clean out my closet. And when I think about the letting go, I think about the through line of from an identity perspective to actually a wardrobe perspective, right? That you were helping me to let go of some things from another season of my life that, if you got something from 20 years ago, it might be the time to have one.
Absolutely.
And it sounds so simple and kind of silly, but it is that type of alignment. Like it no longer serves you. That lipstick shade no longer serves you. Why are you holding it?
Right.
That and it doesn't make you feel good. I have a primer I just bought.
Yeah.
It don't look. It rolls up. Why would I keep it?
Right. Right.
And it sounds so stupid. It sounds so rudimentary, but we can apply that to so many things in our life. Holding on to things that do not serve you.
That's right. That's right.
That do not support your identity and your purpose, right?
Right.
Your passion, all of the things that you talked about.
Yeah, it's true. And those things ultimately become idols, right? When we focus on them and we don't want to give them up, right?
A lot of we could talk forever about that. That was a word. That opens up a whole nother Pandora's box.
It sure does. It sure does.
Keep it rolling. But all the idols that we create in our lives, things, people, personalities.
Yes.
We create all of this in our lives. And I also want to point out, I also jotted down, you talked about aging. And, I'm like, okay, well, my skin ain't quite skinning. Let's not bone up here into my glass. But I had to realize there's so many of my friends, even from high school, that did not make it to 43. So I told my husband the other day, I was like, oh, I've started to look 43. He said, well, first of all, no. But also, what's wrong with looking 43?
Exactly.
Nothing. Glory be to God for 43.
Yes, for exactly.
All right, we got to go. I want to have a little fun with you for a couple minutes before you go.
Okay.
Quick lightning round. I want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Your favorite piece in your wardrobe right now.
Oh,
wow, because it's beautiful, girl.
Oh, thank you. This new trumpet skirt that I just bought. Oof.
What color is it?
It's black.
Okay. A scripture that keeps you grounded in your leadership.
Proverbs 31:25.
Yeah, I say it. You know it by heart.
Well, I should know it by heart.
Don't worry about it. Proverbs 31. The value you wear the most, spiritually or physically. What is the value that you?
Trust.
Love it.
Like I want to be trusted. Yeah, for sure.
I love it. One book that you would recommend to all women.
To all women, eesh, I don't know. I'm a love.
Favorite book? Your favorite book?
Eesh, I can't pick a favorite. It's probably going to be like one of the more recent ones. Well, from a leadership lens, there's this one called Crucial Conversations, and my mentor back in the day introduced me to that one.
Okay.
And it's really like a master class in like emotional intelligence and, communicating boldly, right?
Okay.
Um, so I love that because it does equip leaders to have like tough conversations, but with grace. Um, the other thing will probably be a devotional, and hmm. So the one that I read last year that probably had the most impact on me was Priscilla Shire's Breathe.
I haven't done that one.
And yeah, Breathe was really good because it is about creating that margin, that space that we
Okay.
were talking about in your own life, and learning that we're not here to do it all. It's not we don't need to wear that like a badge.
Love it.
You need to like, pass on that and move to the more, it's not about the soft life. It's about living a life that is rooted in the same cycles that God had, right? And really observing the Sabbath. So now I don't do anything on Sundays, right? Except worship.
Yeah.
But I used to do all the things on Sundays and now I don't. And it's interesting how I can get more done in 6 days than I used to get done in 7 days because I'm now resting on
Oh,
Sunday.
Lord, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. Last thing, one prayer you have for women in your community.
To truly see yourself the way God sees you.
Mm, That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, Courtney, thank you for being such a light.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasant conversation. I love it.
And thank you so much for just being you in a mirror of God's love and clarity.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm so grateful to know you.
Thank you. Likewise. Likewise. You know what they say, birds of a feather.
We'll flock. They flock together. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed this conversation. I certainly have. I could talk for another hour. Um, until next time, stay rooted, stay connected, and stay in a relationship. Be blessed.